Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked on Wolves. Today on the show, Jaden McDaniels' game has evolved considerably since injuries to Donte DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. We'll talk about the change in usage, the change in volume, and the change in shot selection for Jaden, among other things, on today's show. Welcome in. You are Locked on Wolves.
You are Locked on Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I'm the host of Locked On Wolves. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy hump day. Still basking in the glow of the Wolves' massive comeback win against OKC on Monday night. Some residual from that. I do want to close today's show with some interesting fun with games in OKC. There's been a lot of really exciting Wolves games in OKC over the last decade or so. I've got like 5 or 6 I want to talk through toward the end of the show. But first, we got to talk about Jaden McDaniels. He's been awesome lately, and his game has changed. It's shifted. It's evolved, especially since injuries to DiVincenzo and Randle shifted the way the Wolves had to attack on offense. You know, the amount of shots to go around increased, and Jaden McDaniels' role and spot in the pecking order offensively for Minnesota changed. And so I want to break all that down. That's where we will start today's show and spend most of the show. We'll talk about the OKC stuff here toward the end. So a lot on today's show. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Reminder, you can also sign up for the email newsletter at lockedondaily.com. It's one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now. You'll get it Monday through Friday. Had a hiccup, and I don't believe Tuesdays went out. But it normally will be daily Monday through Friday. I just want to apologize if you did sign up for the newsletter and didn't get it yesterday. It will be daily Monday through Friday if you sign up at lockedondaily.com. All right. So let's start with Jaden McDaniels. The easiest thing with Jaden to point out is just like he's scoring a lot more of late, right? Like that's obvious. You can look at the game log. You just watch the games. He's more aggressive off the dribble. But I want to dig into how exactly he's doing it, why the shot distribution has changed, and also just how stark the difference is between pre and post both DiVincenzo and Randle injuries. We'll focus in on the Randle one especially, but I want to touch on both. The way he's played of late, he looks like a legit secondary scoring option. Not like a, when I say that, I don't mean like a number 2 scorer on a championship team. What I mean is you've got your primary scorers for a team, which for the Wolves is Ant, and Julius Randle would be in that category. And like depending on the day, it's like a DiVincenzo or it's even Rudy Gobert, although the scoring's down significantly for Rudy over the last year and a half or so. But you wouldn't necessarily be putting Jaden McDaniels in that category. And coming into the season, I probably would have said he's your 5th option in your starting line. I guess I would have gone 4th ahead of Mike Conley. But behind Ant and Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, you're not expecting to get a ton of scoring out of Jaden McDaniels. And I've been harder on McDaniels than anybody. I think that his defense was overrated earlier in his career, and everybody was excited about the tools that were there. He's been outstanding this year. Like you could argue he's been better, and we'll get into this a little bit too, defensively this year than even he was last year. And offensively, he had that 40+% shooting from 3 a couple of years ago. That kind of went away, and I have been hard on Jaden the last couple of years. And I want to be a little bit cautious here because the span of games we're talking about is such a relatively small sample size, or I should say a small sample size relative to the rest of the season. And yes, of course, also his career. But we're 59 games into this season, and there's a lot of things that have trended in the right direction for Jaden McDaniels and have done that even more so since the injuries to the Timberwolves' other starters in DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. Let's actually start there. Donte DiVincenzo got injured in that Warriors game on January 15th. Okay. So he's missed the last 19 games. You take all of Jaden McDaniels' games from January 17th was the next game after that on, and in 3 of the first 4 games after the DiVincenzo injury, McDaniels shot the ball, had double-digit shot attempts. And actually, the other one, he shot it at least 9 times. So his shot attempts following that injury were 11, 9, 12, 18, but 3 out of 4 in double digits. The month before that, so December, like the game, December 19th through January 15th, Jaden McDaniels had 4 games with double-digit shot attempts. In the 4 games following the injury to DiVincenzo, he had 3. Just a few games later, Julius Randle gets hurt. The last game that Randle played before getting injured, or I guess he got injured during the January 30th game against Utah. That gives us a clean February 1st kind of delineation mark here. So since February 1st, what do you think Jaden McDaniels has done? So I'll repeat what I said a minute ago. Between December 15th and January 15th, there were only 4 instances of Jaden McDaniels averaging double-digit shot attempts. In October, November combined, there were like 5 instances of that. Every game but 1 following the Julius Randle injury, which is a span of 11 games. So 10 out of 11 games, he's had double-digit shot attempts. Take that a step further. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of the last 11 games. He's attempted at least 15 shots. 8 out of the last 11 games. Prior to that, he had done it 3 times all season, 2 of them coming back in November. Okay? So 3 times in 48 games did he attempt 15 or more shots, and now he's done it 8 out of his last 11 games. At the same time, we're going to dig in a bit more on shot distribution. He's only shooting 4.3 three-pointers per game during that span, okay? Rewind, on the season, he's right around 4 per game, but that had been trending in the other direction until recently, and he's had a couple higher volume type three-point games, but this is something I pointed out on the post-game pod on Tuesday following the Thunder game. His other big scoring night, so his career high night of 30 points against Portland, he only attempted 1 3-point shot. He didn't make any. In his 27-10 game against OKC on Monday, when he made a career high, tied his career high with 9 made free throws and had 9 free throw attempts, he had 0 3-point attempts in the OKC game. 16 shot attempts, 9 free throw attempts, 0 3-point attempts for Jaden McDaniels. Very rarely would I say that in a positive way at all, and I don't necessarily mean that it's a positive thing. It just shows the kind of reallocation of the shots that McDaniels is attempting. And for Jaden, it has been a positive thing that the three-point volume has, we'll call it stagnated, and in some ways trended down, at least in his most successful games here of late. So first and foremost, clearly the volume has gone up significantly. Like, there's no question about that. That has, of course, allowed the counting stats to look better. And he's had, 3 of the last 4 games, 20-plus point games. The career high of 30 came on February 8th with both DiVincenzo and Randle out. So clearly the opportunity is there, and Jaden McDaniels is taking the bull by the horns. Less ball to go around, more reliance on Jaden McDaniels. And also layer in the fact that Rudy Gobert has now missed the last 4 games. What did I just say? Jaden McDaniels has scored 20-plus in 3 of the last 4 games. And the other game, he had 17. That was the OKC loss on Sunday. So since the Rudy injury across 4 games, so no Rudy, no DiVincenzo, no Randle, in those 4 games, Jaden McDaniels is averaging 21.5 points on 47% shooting. Getting to the line 6 times a game, 92% from the line. Also nearly 9 rebounds per game over those 4 without Rudy, which is huge, and without Julius Randle. So Jaden is playing the 4 in these lineups, and he's actually rebounding his position at a rate that we have not seen him do consistently throughout his career. And I want to get into that next. I want to talk about shot distribution, and I want to talk about some of Jaden's overall rate-based numbers and how they look so much better this year. He's been a legit positive contributor and is suddenly very much justifying the contract extension the Wolves had given him. So we'll dig in on shot distribution. We'll dig in on rate-based stats for Jaden, and we'll also talk a little bit more broadly about team shot distribution, and then we'll get into the fun with games in OKC for the Wolves. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends over at Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. It's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. All right, let's talk about Jaden's shot selection here. Actually, no, let's do rate-based stats first, because then we can move on to team shot selection. So, just go across the line of Basketball Reference. I promise you, it is a worthwhile exercise looking at Jaden McDaniels. His offensive rebound rate is a career high by more than a percentage point, and it's 2.3 percentage points higher than last year. His defensive rebound rate is a career high, and it is 5.5 points higher. 5.5 points higher than where it was last year for Jaden McDaniels. And nearly a full percentage point better than his career best, which was his first couple years in the league. He was a little over 13%. He's at 14.2% defensive rebound rate. His total rebound rate, 9.9, which is more than a full point better than his next best, and nearly 4 percentage points better than last year when he had a 6% total rebound rate, which is unacceptable for somebody of Jaden McDaniels' size, length, athleticism. He's at 9.9% this year total rebound rate. Assist rate, tied for a career high in assist rate with where he was 2 years ago. Steal rate, believe it or not, easily a career high for Jaden McDaniels. His block rate is up over last year, still lower than where he'd been early in his career, but over last year is certainly an improvement and a step in the right direction. And his turnover rate is easily a career low. He's below a 10% turnover rate, all with his usage rate staying flat and actually inching upwards slightly. For his career, he's had a remarkably consistent usage rate. As a rookie, it was 12%. And over the last 4 years, it's been between 15 and 16%. If you're not familiar with that term, it just means the rate or percentage of team plays used by that player while they're on the floor. So 16% of the time with Jaden on the floor, he's using their possession, meaning he's shooting the basketball, he's turning it over, whatever. A career high in usage rate, tied for a career high in assist rate, and a career low in turnover rate. And layer in the fact he's rebounding better on both ends of the floor. This is a phenomenal year in a lot of aspects for Jaden McDaniels. The free throw rate is up as well for him. He's getting to the line more than any other year in terms of a rate base, other than the 2 years ago season when he shot 40% from three and it looked like it was coming together. Last year, a step backward offensively, a mini step forward defensively. This year, we're back to that growth we saw 2 years ago. The 3-point rate is down a little from last year, but in line, maybe just a little below where he was for his career. And the percentage is now down from last year as well. Remember, he was about 40% 2 years ago. He was under 34% last year. This year, he's just 32.7% from three. So that is the only issue with Jaden McDaniels' game to this point this season, is he's just not making three-pointers at a clip that he needs to be making them at. But he's getting to the line more often, and he's making his free throws at a better percentage than ever before. And as we've already established, he's across the board better in every other category. Offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding, tied for career high in assist rate, career high steal rate, block rate up over last year, career low turnover rate, career high usage rate, across the board. And the injuries to DiVincenzo and Randle have had a major piece to do with this for Jaden. And he's really taking the bull by the horns, as I said earlier. And I mentioned kind of the process. of turning some of these three-pointers into shot attempts in the paint, or in Jaden's case, the short mid-range, which oftentimes is touching the paint. But think about all those kickouts that Jaden McDaniels gets to the corner in the flow of the Timberwolves offense and how he just clanked so many of them for so long. Jaden McDaniels' corner three-point percentage a couple of years ago is about 42%, which is good. It's not outstanding from the corners, but it's good. Last year is just 36%, which is below where you'd like it to be. This year it's just 30%. But he's also stopped taking so many corner threes. He's now pump faking, attacking the closeouts, and getting to the middle of the floor. He rarely stays a baseline. He often gets to the middle and shoots that weird little fade kind of lean back jumper that he likes to shoot. We're seeing more and more of that, which is a really good thing. And the Wolves as a whole have some really good corner three-point shooters. Jaden McDaniels is not, at least not this year or really last year, one of them. And about half his three-point attempts are coming from the corners. What is encouraging is we're starting to see him put the ball on the floor more often and get into the paint, get into the lane. You talk about actual shot distribution. He's shooting the ball really well from the short mid-range, from the mid-range. As a team, this kind of segues into the next point there on the graphic. If you're watching on YouTube, the Timberwolves offense continues to evolve, I should say. On Cleaning the Glass, they have this great feature where you can look at every team, you can look at their game log, and it includes the percentiles of like where each of the factors is. So if you look at their game log for their shot distribution, early in the season, there was a lot of blue under the rim category, meaning they weren't attempting a lot of rim attempts. And like long mid-range has stayed blue pretty much all season. They don't shoot a ton of those shots. But short mid-range has gone up, and so have rim attempts. Short mid-range, go back to the beginning of the season, the first month of the season, there were only 2 instances of the Timberwolves being in the orange, meaning they had a high enough rate of short mid-range attempts that they were, one of the higher percentiles. So an 88th percentile game, 93rd percentile game. Only twice in the first month. Every game but 3 in the last month has been league average or better in terms of frequency of short mid-range jumpers. You're hovering around the 50th percentile on a couple of them, but nothing like a deep blue, right? Nothing that says, hey, we're not shooting very many short mid-range jumpers. Everything is trending up. More short mid-range attempts, more attempts touching the paint. And Jaden has really been a major factor in driving this. Also, Anthony Edwards, the uptick in offensive rebounds has certainly helped the rim attempt number. And this is something we talked about this last week a couple of different times. But offensive rebounding, aggressiveness going downhill from Ant, also from Nas, also from Jaden McDaniels. Those things have all contributed to more rim attempts, less long mid-range, and frankly, even less three-pointers from above the break. Non-corner threes have trended down slightly for Minnesota over the past few weeks. They're still high, but lower than where they were earlier this season. A lot of those are turning into attempts that are much closer to the rim, which is exactly what you want. So again, everything from Jaden McDaniels is really encouraging. The shot distribution, the uptick in volume, but the fact that the shot selection's actually gotten better. And Jaden McDaniels is one of those rare cases where I'd rather see him get to that weird float game at 8 feet than clang a semi-contested 3. Like, we're at that point where I believe Jaden McDaniels has proven himself to be good enough off the dribble. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes getting all the way to the rim, like the and one that tied the game against OKC on Monday. But oftentimes Jaden doesn't get all the way to the rim and he hits those little leaners, and it works out really well for them. There are certainly other areas of growth for Jaden McDaniels, but where we're sitting right now, really trending in the right direction. And the Wolves offense overall, same thing. I know they didn't shoot the 3 well against OKC at all. And of course, neither did the Thunder, but the Wolves are high up percentile wise, in almost every facet when it comes to 3-point shooting. They're currently 4th in the NBA in 3-point shooting as a team. And if you look at the guys that shoot them, everybody's league average or above except Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle. And I'm taking out Joe Ingles and Terrence Shannon, Luka Garza because of lack of attempts, although they're obviously starting to get more run. Everybody else's league average 36-ish% and up. League average is actually more like 37 now. But Donte's right at 37% after a really cold start. Rob Dillingham's at 36%, still relatively low. Relatively small sample size. Mike Conley, despite a horrific start to the season, is up to 39% on the year. He's like almost 50% over the last month or so. And then everybody is above 40% beyond that. Naz Reid, 40%. Nikhil, 40.5%. Anthony Edwards is down to 40.6%. And Jalen Clark, obviously small samples, at 43% on three-point shots. The Wolves are capitalizing on three-point attempts. They're getting through them more often. They're offensive rebounding more to give themselves more rim attempts, more free throw attempts, and more kick-out opportunities for open shooters. Scramble drills, essentially, with the defense, caught in rotation on an offensive rebound. All those are reasons for a higher three-point percentage because you're getting more open assisted threes on kick-out passes, and you're getting more attempts at the rim off offensive rebounds, which should pull everything else up in terms of the Wolves' overall offensive efficiency. All right, I want to close with kind of a fun segment. I don't do stuff like this very often, but I want to talk about the Wolves games in OKC over the past decade plus, call it 13-ish years. Some pretty interesting Wolves OKC games that have taken place in recent memory. So we'll do that here next to close the show. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game using during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. There's several ways you can enjoy taking advantage of the deal. The game day feast, that's an easy one. After an epic 50-point performance, hopefully it's from Anthony Edwards. Maybe it's later this week. The Wolves have games Thursday and Friday night. You can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, burgers, whatever you want from your favorite spots delivered straight to your door. Or maybe it's late night cravings the next day, again, between noon and midnight. If you're staying up watching highlights or you just need a late midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right. Fun with games in Oklahoma City. So full disclosure, and part of the reason why I'm doing this, frankly, I live in Oklahoma City, and so I've been to the majority of Timberwolves games in OKC over the last decade plus. I'm going to take you all the way back to 2012, which is, 13 years ago now? There undoubtedly were some good games in between. The Wolves and Thunder pretty much always seem to have good games. But I'm going to give you 6, not including Monday's game, that had some sort of intriguing moment or backstory or whatever behind it, or color commentary around it that I want to hit. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. And I was also at the majority of these. I think I was at all of them but one. So the first one I want to hit, I was at this game. It was Wolves at Thunder, March 23rd, 2012. Double overtime game. Kevin Love gets 51 in the double overtime game, 51 and 14 for Kevin Love. JJ Barea turns in a triple-double, 25, 14, and 10. I bet you weren't expecting to hear the name JJ Barea on Locked On Wolves today, but here you go. He played 47 minutes, shot 10 of 22. JJ Barea was second on the team in field goal attempts. This was a team, this is also fun to just kind of list some of the other dudes that played. The starting lineup for this game, Luke Ridnour, your starting point guard, with Martell Webster, Wesley Johnson, Derek Williams, and Kevin Love. Kevin Love played 49 minutes. Ridnour played 48. Barea played 47. And Anthony Tolliver off the bench played 44 minutes, had 23 points and 7 rebounds, 9 of 13 shooting. Wayne Ellington, 36 minutes off the bench. Also on the roster, Brad Miller played 3 minutes. Anthony Randolph played a minute. Michael Beasley did not dress for this game. Other guys, Malcolm Lee, and yes, Darko Milicic was still on the roster for this game. It was an absolute thriller. The Wolves ended up winning 149-140 in double overtime. They were up by a bucket at halftime, tied going to the fourth quarter. I take that back. That's not right. Is that right? They're up by a bucket at halftime, down by 2 going to the fourth quarter, and then ended up going to overtime. Wolves win in overtime, 149-140. I won't forget that one. I won't forget the big shots that were hit down the stretch. Kevin Love especially was awesome in this game. 7 of 11 on threes and 12 of 16 at the free throw line during his 51 and 14 night. Okay, that's Kevin Love in 2012. Fast forward slightly to 2016. Okay, so 4 years. Ricky Rubio hits a buzzer beater off of a amazing kick out pass from Andrew Wiggins. Remember, Wiggins drives right under the basket, caught in the air, fires a pass to Ricky Rubio in the left slot. I was sitting a few rows behind the Wolves bench at this game, and Rubio drills the three. It had been a tie game at the time, 96-96. Rubio drills the three, and the Timberwolves end up beating the Thunder. This was when the Thunder were really good and the Wolves were really bad. At the time, their records were 44-21. Minnesota's that was OKC. Minnesota was 21-45. This was an OKC team. I should also actually give you some of the OKC rosters. This particular OKC team still had Durant, Westbrook, Steven Adams, Serge Ibaka, and this was an Andre Roberson game for them. Also, Randy Foye. Randy Foye. Timberwolves great. Randy Foye off the bench for OKC in this game. Again, Rubio hits the game winner. He had 13 and 12 in this game, was 3 of 6 on threes. Timberwolves high score was Gorgui Dieng, 25 and 9 for Gorgui. Andrew Wiggins had 20 points, but it took him 19 shots to do it. Other guys on the roster, Cat had 17 and 12. Zach LaVine had just 9 points in this game. Only shot the ball 8 times in 35 minutes. I wonder when the last time that's happened was. Shabazz Muhammad was the high minutes getter off the bench. This is, of course, a Rick Adelman coach team. Others, Tayshaun Prince, Tyus Jones played just 12 minutes. Greg Smith played 12 minutes. Nemanja Bjelica, haven't said that name in years. And then the late Adrian Payne. Damian Rudej was on the team that year as well. So that was a Timberwolves win on a Ricky Rubio buzzer beater late in that game. Well, not late, in the final second of the game because it was a buzzer beater. That one was also a ton of fun. Fast forward just 1 year beyond that. Andrew Wiggins hits a buzzer beater. First week of the season, the Timberwolves they were up 2. Carmelo Anthony hit a 3 with 5 seconds left for OKC. Andrew Wiggins comes down the court, knocks down a buzzer beater from about 30 feet or so. It seemed, I thought it was a little further, but a deep 3 to win the game. Wolves are down 1 out of timeouts. Wiggins hits the runner, kind of running jumper, and the Timberwolves end up winning by a bucket, 115-113. This was a Jimmy Butler Timberwolves team. Jimmy Butler had 15, 6, and 6 in this game, a relatively quiet game by his standards. Cat had 27 and 12. Wiggins had 27, 7, and 4, but took 20 shots to get his points. Taj Gibson was on this team. Of course, this is now a Tibbs team. Jamal Crawford off the bench, Gorgui Dieng off the bench, Bjelica, Tyus Jones, and Shabazz all played in this game. But that was the Wiggins buzzer beater in October of 2017. Ryan Saunders' first win as an NBA head coach came in OKC. Remember him getting mobbed in the locker room? That was an exciting 2-point Wolves win, not a buzzer beater in this game. OKC had a final possession where they had multiple cracks at it and couldn't score. Cat had 20 and 9. Andrew Wiggins had 40, 10, and 4 in this game. So a 40-pointer from Wiggins to get Ryan Saunders his first career win. Josh Okogie was in the starting lineup. Jeff Teague, Taj Gibson, Dario Saric off the bench, 15 and 7. Tyus Jones, Gorgui Dieng. And this was the second coming of Anthony Tolliver, if you will, in a Timberwolves uniform. Lowell Deng, Jared Bayless, Derrick Rose, Jared Terrell, all in uniform but did not play in this game. I told you, man, this is a trip down memory lane for sure. Later that same season, so this is the Ryan Saunders win after the Tom Thibodeau firing. Later in the same, I'm sorry, not the same season, the same calendar year. That was January of 19. December of 2019, Ryan Saunders, of course, still the head coach. The Jordan Bell, Chris Paul jersey untucked game. I'm sure everyone remembers that. The short version, the Timberwolves were clinging to a late lead in regulation, and they were up by 2. Jordan Bell goes to the free throw line after a take foul. This is before the take foul rule with 3 seconds left, misses both free throws. Josh Okogie gets the offensive rebound, and the Wolves call a timeout. Okay, so let me say that again. Wolves are up 2 with Jordan Bell at the line. He misses both free throws. Wolves get the rebound, call a timeout. The Wolves put inbound the ball to Karl Anthony Towns. He's fouled. They're still up 2 with 1 second left now. Cat misses the first free throw. The Timberwolves decide to put Jordan Bell back into the game for Shabazz Napier. Napier had come on the floor for offensive purposes to you'd rather have him shoot the free throw than Jordan Bell, who just missed 2. But Jordan Bell doesn't tuck his jersey in before he comes back on the floor. I don't know why he had to untuck it. He was just on the floor. Chris Paul tattles. Scott Foster calls the technical. Danilo Gallinari makes the technical free throw to pull the Thunder to within 1. Cat, of course, makes the second free throw. And then Dennis Schroeder comes down in a broken floor and somehow goes the length of the floor in a second because the Wolves just chose to not stop the Thunder from going, the length of the entire floor in 1 second and scoring on a home run pass to Schroeder, who made a crazy shot. Everything that could have gone wrong in the final 5 seconds went wrong for Minnesota. Like Chris Paul had missed a jumper that could have tied the game. Wolves get it, miss 2 free throws. Then they miss a third free throw. You get the technical for OKC, make a free throw, but then the Thunder score quickly and tie it. That's an infamous game in Timberwolves history. That also happened at OKC. Oh, I forgot to mention, I meant to along the way say all the games I was at. I was not at the Wiggins buzzer beater or the Saunders first win. So I was at the Brea triple-double. I was at the whatever the second one I said was. Oh, the Rubio buzzer beater. I was at that game. The Brea triple-double in double overtime, the Love 50+. I missed the Wiggins buzzer beater in person and the Saunders win. I was at the Jordan Bell game. It was apoplectic. And then last year, this one's more of maybe just a personal highlight. The Wolves beat the Thunder by 6. Of course, both teams were very good last year. This was the game in late January. And Ant had that crazy dunk on SGA. And this was also the marginal contact game where he's getting grabbed on the arm. And then you can see the fingers of SGA gripping the forearm. It's not like a touch foul, gripping the forearm of Anthony Edwards. And then in the last 2-minute report, it's called marginal contact. That game happened in OKC. And that Ant dunk I had a great view of was basically at the free throw line, just a few rows up, and was able to see just a nasty Ant dunk up close and personal, which was awesome. And then Monday night, the Anthony Edwards block on SGA in a historic comeback. Like, that one goes to the top of the list, right? It's got to be the Rubio buzzer beater, maybe the Wiggins buzzer beater, the Jordan Bell game, just in terms of things to remember. And then the what happened on Monday, the comeback from Minnesota was just incredible. All sorts of records being broken there in terms of numbers. I meant to actually go back through and pull all those various stats on that, but we touched on a number of them on Tuesday's show. So that's all we got for you today. The Wolves don't play again until tomorrow night, Thursday night. The Wolves are at the Lakers, I believe, on Thursday night. I'm going to confirm that. Yeah, they're at the Lakers Thursday night on NBA TV at 9:30, and then at Utah on Friday. So we'll preview the Lakers matchup tomorrow, and then Friday do the same for Utah. That'll also be Friday will be the post-game pod for the Lakers game. So lots coming up still this week. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder, you can subscribe to the Locked On Wolves daily podcast. One stop for Ultimate Wolves and NBA coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. Of course, the Locked On Wolves podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Remember, the Locked On Network is your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.